Fantasy Football with Albe and Greg. Yo, what's up, everybody, and welcome to What the Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Greg McQueen, and we are bringing you another session of jam-packed fantasy news. We're going to get everything from a little bit of a draft recap, even though we dived into that last time. We're going to talk about a little of the off-season news that's been happening, and we're going to start breaking down divisions and seeing where these players land in each of their respective spots. I attended the draft party that I was supposed to attend to. I had some IPAs. We had some weird pretzel skin chips. And here is the host with the most of the draft party and my partner, Albe Galasso. What's up, Albe?
Yeah, man. What's up, my guy? It's been a couple weeks since we jumped on, and I'm super excited to be back, man. This is a good time for us. I think we had a good showing on the first episode. Hopefully everybody tuned in, listened, liked, shared, all that kind of good stuff on our social media pages. But yeah, man, the draft was kind of wild. You know, we saw some trades, we saw some cool stuff. You saw some winners and losers. I thought some teams got better, some teams got worse, some teams didn't change. So we're back. Like you said, we're going to go ahead and do something where every 2 weeks, we're going to break down, an NFC East, West, South. We're going to go through the whole entire list and do a fantasy preview, give you a little insight on these players, where they finished last year, what their rankings are this year, some news and notes, just get some content out there and show you what we got. But you excited,
I'm
man?
very excited. To even expand upon that further, we're trying to figure out how to upload this to Spotify. We've been uploading the videos to YouTube. And we're going to try to expand our social media presence as much as possible, but we appreciate everybody who watched the video. We appreciate everybody who's coming here for any sort of fantasy advice or just to hear just a bunch of idiots talk about football.
Yeah, so we did make some progress on our social media. So if you're listening in and you found us in some sort of way, we do have a Facebook now, and that's at What the Fantasy Football. You can search that in your Facebook search engine there on the top of the screen. We have a Twitter. It is WTFF_podcast. We were trying to get that WTFF, but apparently you need 5 characters. So that's at WTFF_podcast. And as always, I have my Twitter. It's going. We're going to have more posting going on soon now that the draft's over and we're getting into the hot and heavy draft, strategies and info and all this OTAs going on. But my Twitter page is at LBG_FF. So go ahead, follow, like, share, do what you got.
I'll be working on setting up my Twitter page. I have one. I just want to make one for the show. So once I get that handle down, I'll let you guys know about it.
All right, let's get into some news and notes recently, some stuff that's kind of going on in the league. We're in OTAs now, right? We got players showing up. We got some players that are not. Chat around there that there's still some trade potential for these people we talked about last time. I thought it was interesting. My first thing I want to say is we're on the Debo watch now, right? We talked about it last time. Let's talk about it this time. Last thing I see, he's hanging out with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. They're kind of lacking another weapon over there, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's
right?
very interesting. I believe the last time we spoke, you were on the train that Debo was staying in San Francisco, and I was on the train that he was leaving. I'm starting to backtrack a little bit on that. The closer the season gets, the closer OTAs, the closer training camp gets, and Debo hasn't been moved, I think he plays or he holds out, which would be just a shame for football in general.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what happened to Le'Veon Bell a few years ago when he held out. It's not really good for the team. It's not good for the player either. It could work out, but I mean, if these guys love football, why aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's not good for the fans either, because we're missing a premier talent on the field. So that just sucks.
Yeah, he's an upcoming superstar, right? I mean, he had a great year last year, so we'll have to track that and keep tallies and see what happens with that. Other news and notes around the league, we don't get into it, but Deshaun Watson investigation looks like it might be at the end, which we might be able to get a little clarity on what his playing is. So that will help, draft strategies on the QB side of things once we get that.
I hear you. Well, you said it's near the end. What does that mean? That the civil case is almost over?
No, so the NFL is at the end of their investigation.
Really? The NFL is okay? Because I heard a rumor that they were going to wait to put sanctions on Deshaun Watson until next year because he's not making any money this year, and they really want to hand it to him. They want to hand him his ass, really.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I saw in the Twitter world was the commissioner, Roger Goodell, actually came out and said we're at the end of this investigation.
Okay, so do you think the sanctions will come then this year?
I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, it's been going on for this long. I know he's got a couple civil cases, right? I just want to see him play football or not play football and have clarity for fantasy purposes. It doesn't help us, It's better to have another quarterback in the top 15 rankings that are able to draft than not, because then it's just more clarity. It's easier to handle.
And we don't dive deep into the politics of football or anything like that, but it's no shock that the NFL has been, for lack of a better word, criticized on their handling of these situations between Ray Rice, the running back I can't remember on Cleveland, Kareem Hunt, and now Deshaun Watson.
Yep.
And then what happened with Trevor Bauer in Major League Baseball, where they threw the book at him. Do you think this Trevor Bauer thing Watson might be done for the year, man?
I mean, the MLB is different than the NFL. We all know that. But the Trevor Bauer thing is they're almost making it like they don't want to have him ever play baseball ever again. And I feel bad for the guy, but also, too, I mean, we don't get into it. But for that hit that he took and can't play, I mean, that's crazy. I don't think that's the case here. Again, we're just going to watch it. It's news to kind of track. You're talking a potential
top 10 quarterback in fantasy. Who might not play the entire season, and those were always the strangest picks for me when I'm at a draft and somebody's suspended for a few games. You're like, where does he fall? You know what I mean? Like when's too soon and when's too late?
Yeah, and you got lucky some years, right? You knew if a guy had only 2 games, 3 games. 1 game, Will Fuller last year, I think had 1 game, and that blew everybody away because it was like, he was going to go on the cheap, and then he didn't really play. I remember the Julian Edelman year. I think Mark Ingram year. That was the same year where those guys fell. And sometimes it's a good strategy. You just kind of stockpile, because what would you rather have? A potential wide receiver 1 on your bench that you're drafting as your 4th wide receiver or your 3rd wide receiver? I mean, it's all stuff that you got to play into. When we highlight these stuff today, we're going to do the NFC East. We will highlight if people are on a suspension or whatnot, so that you have an understanding of the player. But yeah, it's interesting. Another potential, does somebody hold out with more news in the QB realm, is Kyler Murray and the Cardinals.
Yeah, Kyler. Listen. Without diving too deep into it, I didn't like what he did with the social media thing, deleting all the thing. You're on a contract, play it out, and then if the team still continues to screw you, you hand it to him in free agency. You just don't sign that extension.
Yeah, I mean, I know he wants the money. I get it, but this is a business, right? These are jobs. So for me, I mean, yeah, we all want more money, but if you love the sport, I mean, how do you stay away? So I think he shows up. I think, who knows if a deal is done, but I think he shows up.
Yeah, I mean,
there is talks of him not.
That was the thing. Back in the day, a lot of these players, they talked about holding out. And that's why in the 90s, there was the whole union stuff. And all these players wanted representation. They wanted guaranteed money. But in football, it's very rare that you get a career-ending injury. Worst comes to worst, you're out for a year with like a torn ACL. And I know it sucks. Listen, I'm not downplaying torn ACLs and MCLs and stuff like that. But at the same time, he's young enough where, let's say he does get hurt this year, there's buyers. There's buyers for Kyler Murray when he comes back.
Oh, yeah. the upside on that. And most of these, I mean, it's different too now than 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago with injuries too as well. You're seeing these guys come back even quicker.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some that are detrimental. You know, the Achilles is a long process. But even ACL, MCLs, I mean, these guys in 90 days are already up and going. It's just, are they clear for contact? So, no, I think we're just going to have to watch it. Right now, I think we're on the Watson, Debo, and Kyler watch for news-wise. We're also on the watch for the Ravens. Ravens came out saying it looks like they're going to try to add a wide receiver 1 through the trade market prior to training camp. That's interesting with the Debo thing.
Yeah.
I know there's a few teams that are on the bottom of the barrel for records last year and going in maybe not having high hopes with players that they can move, and we'll see. So the training probably isn't done. We're going to see some stuff over the summer.
Yeah, and aren't there still some free agents out there? Aren't there still a couple names that are hanging around? Like is Landry?
Yeah, Julio. Landry went to the Saints.
Go to the Saints. Okay.
Landry went to the Saints, I believe, on a 1-year deal. You have Julio Jones, which can kind of still play.
That'd be interesting to see him in Baltimore.
He's still floating around. I'm trying to think of any other names. I'm actually going to look it up real quick. Why not?
Yeah, because who else? Yeah, who else is on that team? Now that they traded Marquise Brown, who's Lamar throwing the ball to?
They have Rashad Bateman, which is the rookie last year. And then you got a couple of other guys. I mean, there's not much other than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, you got Julio Jones. You got Will Fuller. You have T.Y. Hilton, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Allen Hurns. And then we're just getting down into that realm. Odell Beckham's still out there.
Odell. That's another guy. You have a couple middle-of-the-road veterans, man, and some guys with some decent upside.
Yeah, I mean, I think things look different in the free agency market if Odell didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's why he's at where he's at. He's rehabbing, and something will come up. Who knows? Allen Robinson might have not gone to the Rams if Odell Beckham was still healthy. I mean, he was putting up some numbers at the end of it, so... and the last news, we'll stay on the wide receiver thing that I saw. We all saw that it got hit after the draft was DeAndre Hopkins from the Cardinals gets a suspension for PEDs.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's accidental, on purpose, anything like that, these guys treat their bodies like temples. So it seems strange that he would claim accident when, in the day and age we live in, if you just own something, people forget about it. But how many games did he end up getting?
I think it's 6
games.
I think it's 6 games.
All right.
That hurts his draft capital, 100%. Like, even 2 games would hurt his draft capital. But I think I said on our last show, I don't think I was going to lean towards drafting him because I think his tail off starts to happen. I think he's still an elite player, don't get me wrong. But, I think the tail off starts. And you don't want to be on the wrong side of that tail off. You know what I mean? You drafted Julio really high 2 years ago. His tail off hit. AJ Green the same way, that tail. And then you're just definitely not getting your draft capital worth when you can go for somebody younger that's on the uptick, So that's kind of our news and notes. Little stuff around the league recently. But our draft recap, I mean, let's kind of just talk about it real quick. I thought it was a crazy night. There was 2 wide receivers that were moved, not named Debo, which were the 2 highlights for me, I think. First being A.J. Brown going to the Eagles. What do you think on that?
A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown's one of those underdog receivers where every time you watch him, this guy looks tough as nails. He's always on the ground. He's always rolling around. He's always got dirt all over his jersey. And then you look at his numbers and you're like, whoa, he's kind of better than I like. When you give the eye test, he looks like a middle-of-the-road receiver, but his numbers weren't. His
numbers, I agree.
He's really good. The problem is I don't know about the quarterback in Philly.
Hey, just to give you a heads up, NFC East is today, so we can save the A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah, no. I'm just giving a little. I just think it's I think it was a good trade for the Eagles. I don't know about the Titans per se. They said they got. They got the young kid that's kind of like an AJ Brown, but.
Yeah, so they drafted a wide receiver in the first round to replace him, and then get draft capital with a disgruntled wide receiver that wanted big money. And they just drafted a young quarterback, too. I guess their plan was when they went with Malik Willis. We were kind of wrong on the Malik Willis stuff. We weren't right on much for the draft, but we got some good stuff in there. But Malik Willis going in the third to the Titans. So I think they're going to eventually rebuild as the Titans go here.
For the record, I did call the first overall pick. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, you did. You did. I called the second overall pick. But for the first.
And I also called our Giants getting Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. So.
Yeah. I have to find my notebook because I wrote those down, and I want to just prove that I had that stuff down. But that's no here and there. Last thing on the draft, though, just to highlight, there's winners, but we're not going to sit here and really kind of talk about it. I mean, there's teams out there. I think the Giants, the Jets, the Eagles, the Lions. I think they improved. I think the world kind of improves census, and then there were some losers. The Bears didn't really do much to help their QB. The Rams didn't have much. The Eagles didn't, not the Eagles, the 49ers, and then the Colts. It's kind of like the census.
I also don't think Dallas did very well.
Oh, it's interesting with Dallas. I think I said on the last podcast, but it's just, I don't know, man. I think they're just going in the wrong direction. I do. I think there's still production and fantasy, but 100%. But as a team, I mean, they were 12-5 last year. They might be 500 to me. I really do. It will be interesting. The NFC East is going to be interesting, and that's what we have to do today.
But the other trade in the draft with the Marquise Brown to the Cardinals, I think that's a good move for Arizona. I think Marquise Brown offers he's a better route runner than Christian Kirk, and he still offers that deep threat.
Yeah, you gotta think they knew the D-Hop news before that draft.
They had to have.
Come on, man. When that thing dropped, I mean, we were watching together. What? When that thing dropped, I was like,
Hollywood
what?
To the Cardinals?
The Ravens have who? Like, what are they going to do? You know what I mean? I mean, the A.J. Brown we kind of saw. I thought the name Debo would have went up there first, but it kind of makes sense. They probably knew what was up, man. And if they're a win-now team, they can't just lose 6 weeks of their number one. So they bring him in. He'll probably be a different style wide receiver until D-Hop gets back. And then if Kyler shows up, James Conner on another year, I think the team could be good. And we'll definitely see. But that's it for the draft. I mean, there was other stuff that happened in day 2 and 3. We're not going to get into it. Some of the players that were drafted might show up on our list right now because they're going to creep in. Some starters for tight ends, wide receivers, running backs, QBs. But what we're going to do for the next 2 weeks, like I said, we're going to take a division and we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about the QB1, the running back 1, the running back 2, wide receiver, so on and so forth. Some teams we might list as much, some less. And then we're going to get into little hot takes and quick fire rounds of stuff.
Yeah, I think we're going to start with the NFC, and we'll probably go counterclockwise. Yep. We'll probably do the East, North, West, South, and then we'll jump to the AFC, and we'll go that way. And just for clarification, we can pull stats all day, and stats are all fine and dandy. You can pull stats all day. We're not going to sit here and shove stats down your throat. This is objective views of what we think these players will do. From my perspective, anyway, this is what my objective view on what I think these players will do in fantasy, and just hot takes and gut feelings, because that's usually how I play, and it's won me a few championships.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll kick it off with the division winners last year with the Dallas Cowboys going 12-5.
America's team.
All right. America. So the roster is the roster right now, right? So you got Dak Prescott as the QB. So it's interesting with Dak. He finished last year as a QB8, and he's ranked this year as the QB8. So what do you is he going to stay at the QB8? Is he worth looking at?
I think Dak stays at the QB8, and these are all pulled from Fantasy Pros, right? This is mainly where you get most of it from?
So this is a census ranking from the top experts off of Fantasy Pros. It's the best way to not say we're citing one site. We're trying to cite all the experts, but it's just data on a PPR league. Again, we run PPRs mostly, and we're going to talk about PPRs eventually. We might journey off into other things, but this is so when we get in the running backs and wide receivers, it's PPR stuff. So he finished 8 overall in PPR formats, and he's ranked 8 overall.
Yeah, I think he's going to end up at around the same spot, right? Like 7 to 10, somewhere in that range. I don't think the Dallas Cowboys are going to get hurt too bad offensively with the loss of Amari. And I think Dak puts up numbers. I mean, Dalton Schultz is a nice surprise. The offensive line is still pretty solid. He has a nice dump off and I don't know. I think Dak still has weapons. I just think he finishes a little lower than 8th. I still think he's a top 12.
Yeah, I think he's definitely, for me, I would say he's a top 12. There's a couple interesting names in the top 12 when you're looking at it. I mean, Watson's kind of floating around that area. You got Kyler Murray, which we don't know his situation. So, you got Wilson in a new offense, Brady on maybe his last year, and we'll get to like Jalen Hurts. That's kind of like the guys around him. I don't know how I feel about him though. Like personally, I mean, Amari Cooper leaves, right? And we'll highlight the wide receivers in just a bit. CeeDee Lamb steps up in the wide receiver 1, but like looking into it and looking at depth chart, I'm not sure, because Amari Cooper, let's remember this, he had 104 targets last year. So where is that going to go? And where is he going to sling the ball? He's productive when he throws down the field, and Michael Gallup, which we'll get to in a second, he might not be ready for week 1. So that's something to think about. Now, if we, you got anything else you want to chat on that?
That's about it for me. I mean, Dak is Dak, right? He's a solid QB.
Consistent. Yeah, I mean, the last couple of years, as long as he's not getting injured, he's consistent. He's a QB that I haven't necessarily targeted in some of my leagues. It depends on where they fall too as well. So the running back situation stays the same as 2021. You got Zeke Elliott, leading the backfield with Tony Pollard. This is the interesting take for me. Because we saw it last year with Zeke. Now, Zeke finished RB7, and I had to double, triple check that because I thought he had a down year. He's ranked this year RB19, and I had to double check that too as well because I thought it was flipped, honestly, because you normally see Zeke in the bottom of the first, second, depending on your format. But he had 1,000 yards rushing last year and 10 touchdowns. Can he continue, or does Tony Pollard start to take more and more, and we see more of a 50-50 split?
Yeah, so we can kind of lump them together because we're lumping the Cowboys' backfield.
100%.
With the eye test, if you took the eye test and when you watch the Cowboys games and you watch Zeke and you watch Pollard, you were like, dude, this guy Pollard is a vulture. He is taking the catches. He's taking the yards. Like, he's all over the place. And Zeke had a quiet but really good year. He was a solid RB1. I think that they're not giving him his due. I think if you feed him, Zeke's going to reward you. And he's going to give you the points, man.
Yeah.
And I think I also think you're going to get a drop in Tony Pollard. I've known the Cowboys. I've known Jerry Jones for too long. I don't really know him. Me and JJ don't hang out, but I think you're going to see a drop in Pollard. Jerry Jones likes his names, and Zeke can still run, man. Zeke can still run big time, and he's the red zone guy. He's going to get all the TDs.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he had 10 TDs last year. Rushing, I don't see it. I don't, and I was trying to look at what the coach did when he was at the Packers, and I mean the offensive coordinator, I don't know who's there, but it just looked like Pollard was the better player last year, and it's hard to disagree with
the eye test. That's what I'm talking about.
you were nervous when Pollard was in the game. You really were. And Pollard, finished RB 28. That's a quiet 28. That's RB 3 territory right outside. And ranked this year RB 32. So he's one of the top handcuffs if you're looking at it in that perspective. To draft this year. It's going to be interesting. I definitely like to try I don't like to go grab my own handcuff per se. But Tony Pollard probably somebody that has upside RB1 if Zeke goes down 100%. And some of these guys that are second on the running back charts, they're not. They're just gap filler guys. But Tony Pollard could be a superstar, and I kind of like it.
Hey, you were right with the eye test. Tony Pollard looked like the better back last year.
Yeah, he looked like a beast. I mean, he was quick. He was electric. It was fun to watch. Wide receivers, let's jump into it. I don't want to take too much time on each team, but wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb takes the wide receiver 1 spot for the team. He finished last year wide receiver 19, okay? And he's ranked wide receiver 6.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm good. I can't. He's got all the talent in the world, but wide receiver 6, to me, that seems a little high. That's a little high for me. I mean, I could probably find 6 other wide receivers I would take easily. But it doesn't mean he's not going to go there. And he's definitely going to be productive. But again, it's the Amari Cooper effect. What happens to Amari Cooper leaving? Amari Cooper took different, pressure off of him. And we've seen that before, right? Like with Juju and when Brown was there, Juju was great as the wide receiver 2 or 1A, 1B, whatever the combo was. And then when you get all the pressure and the wide receiver 2 not knowing if he's going to be ready for week 1, which is Michael Gallup, because he's injured and coming back. I don't know. I think I'll steer away from it, and I'm not just being a Homer Giants fan. It's just the way I feel when that's a huge draft capital.
Yeah, I'm a little undecided when it comes to CeeDee Lamb. I'm gonna tackle this receiving core as a group. When you lose a guy like Amari Cooper, you're all the double coverages, all the safety help, everything is just gonna go whoop onto the other side. Is CeeDee Lamb that talented where he can overcome that and shine as a wide receiver 6 in a fantasy league? Does he have the talent to do it? Yeah. Will he do it in that Mike McCarthy system with Dak Prescott and just everything? I'm leaning towards no. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver. Do I think he's going to be great? Yeah, I think he's going to do great on a lot of fantasy teams. Michael Gallup ain't it. You want me to keep going? Michael Gallup ain't it. I'm never taking him again. I want nothing. I don't even want to hear. Keep his name out your mouth. I don't want to hear about him. He was ranked wide receiver 47 last year and finished 77. And I think that's generous. And I know it's facts, and you can't argue facts, but that guy. Nah, yeah. I think everybody had him wrong, and I don't think he steps up. Like you said, we don't even know if he's going to start the season. I don't like him. I don't like Michael Gallup at all. I do, however, like the addition of James Washington. And I think that's a great deep threat for Dak that he'd never really had before. A little sprinter, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it will be interesting to see if Gallup can get on the field. Because him and Dak do hook up very well in the long ball. There's gonna somebody between Gallup, Washington, and the last guy I want to highlight because he's gonna get hype this summer. He's gonna be one of those wide receivers that people are gonna look at, and it's Jalen Tolbert. He's starting to get hype already in OTAs and stuff like that, and I get it. It's only hype, and sometimes it doesn't work out. Yes, I will go down as the Trey Lance hype machine last year, and he never saw the field. But Jalen Tolbert is starting to get some hype. So I think the wide receiver 2, when that's solidified in that offense, could be the more productive one on a discount.
I think it'll be Jalen Tolbert as well. I don't think Michael Gallup can fill that role. even he's had every chance. Michael Gallup has had every chance to prove himself as a top wide receiver in that offense and just fails. He's the Evan Engram of the Dallas Cowboys. He never lived up to the hype ever.
Yeah. Somebody, that's really the wide receivers in itself, but the other big name, which is a featured item, is Dalton Schultz for the Cowboys. I believe Dalton Schultz led the team last year in targets, finished as tight end 3, and he's ranked right now tight end 8, which my personal opinion, I kind of do like it. If he's going to get 100 targets and he's going to be ranked at tight end 8 going into the season, and he finished 3, he showed that he could be a top 3 tight end, and it might be the safety blanket that Dak needs.
I think his stock is rising, and I think it's rising sharply. I think Dalton Schultz is going to have a very good season. I think he had a very good season last season, and I think he's going to do it while sliding under the radar. I think you can steal this guy in the middle rounds of the draft and have yourself a top 5 tight end.
Yeah, that's the thing. Tight end 8, right? So if he was 3, 4, 5, we would probably, and I've seen it. I don't know how all you guys have seen tight ends run in your drafts, but normally you see the top 3, and this year is probably going to be a top 4, and then all of a sudden they stop. So if you could be the guy that drafts a tight end that has that upside in round like 6-ish, like a lot of people did last year for Mark Andrews, it worked out. So yeah, I kind of like it. He might be on my radar for this year, especially
because
if he
your big
falls
boys
down.
are going to go, right? Your big boy like Kelsey, like Pitts. What's his name from San Francisco? I can't remember. George Kittle.
You got Kittle. You got Kittle, Kelsey, Pitts, Andrews, Waller, Hawkinson.
I think you can. Yeah, I think you could steal.
And then you're starting to get.
I think you could steal Schultz, who's he catches. So that's the thing about tight ends, right? Because there's a whole ton of them that catch touchdowns randomly. So they'll catch 1 or 2 touchdowns in a game, and then you don't see him for 3-4 weeks. But Schultz,
consistency.
Schultz is getting targets. Schultz is getting yards. And he's getting red zone targets, which is absolutely huge for a tight end. I think he puts up a ton of points.
Yeah, 104 targets last year. I just looked it up. I mean, that's the volume that you want. So where he's going, yeah, man, give me some Dalton Schultz, please.
All right.
I'll take it. All right, let's go on to the New York Football Giants, which finished last year 4-13, led by a quarterback, Danny Jones. Last year he finished as the QB 27. He's going into drafts right now as the QB 25. Highlight that I want to let you guys know is that no wide receiver had more than 73 targets last year. It was a bad year for the Giants. It was a bad year for the offensive line. It was a bad year for the coach. It was a bad year for everything. We're not telling you that he's the next superstar in top 5, but Daniel Jones, going at 27, or 25, ranked 25, he's going to be a waiver wire pickup at some point this year.
I agree 100%, but is he a bye week filler? Is he a backup you stick on your bench? Because, I mean, if you have 12 teams in a league, then you're going to have... Right, I don't see him in the top 12. We don't know what the offense is going to look like. They have names, they have talent, but can they bring it all together for Daniel Jones? Like they have wide receiver. It's there, it's sitting there, but does he have the talent to pull it off after being ruined by, what is this now, his third coach?
Yeah, third offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm selling Daniel Jones this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to be somebody that probably gets picked up for a bye week or something. I mean, the rankings don't show anything to touch. We could take 24 other QBs over him right now. He's got injuries. He's got all that kind of stuff. Nobody's going to touch him. I'm just telling you right now. And especially if the names such as like Matt Ryan, Tannehill, Tua, Kirk Cousins are ahead of him on that list. Derek Carr. I'm just kind of reading off those. Those are guys that are probably going to be on your bench for fillers if you're only running one QB. Now, if you're in your 2 QB league or super flex, which does happen, then you're going to see more of this stuff kind of go. But we don't. We just run one QB.
Yeah, we're on a wait and see approach with Daniel Jones.
Yeah. I think the Giants are all on a wait and see approach. Let's be honest. Come on, man.
Yeah, we 100% right.
All the wide receiver core was hurt last year, all at the same time and at different times. Saquon is the only name I think to me is interesting, where I think he's kind of set where he's ranked and stuff. A couple weeks ago, I looked at that Saquon as probably a good sleeper going into this year. Not even a sleeper, but like somebody I want to target because he was just getting ranked low, but he's starting to climb back up. OTAs go out there. He finished last year as the RB34. He was drafted probably in your second round last year. And this year he's ranked at RB14.
I think RB14 is astronomically high for Saquon Barkley. He has shown me nothing since his rookie year. He can't stay on the field. This is a team that we're all on a hard wait-and-see approach. The only reason I even think the Giants have a shot this year is because they have the third or fourth easiest schedule in the NFL. I'm a sell on Saquon Barkley. I think if you draft him in the second round, you're crazy.
No, he won't go. I don't think he goes in the second round this year. That's where he was going last year. But
RB14,
it's interesting to me.
You're talking third or fourth round for Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I don't like I said a couple weeks ago, I was like, all right, like Saquon was like in the census rankings 19, 20. I'm like, that's getting interesting. I mean, you got J.K. Dobbins in that area. I remember they threw Bryce Hall after the draft in that area. I was like, all right, like, yeah, maybe it's kind of worth it because of maybe the name value, and sometimes name carries. But I just kind of looked. I know you're not a stat guy and stuff, but I just kind of looked. And the running back 14 last year had over 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns on the ground, plus 20 catches and 1 touchdown for 174 yards. If you think Saquon can do that, then great. I don't think he breaks 1,000 yards rushing. I do think he has more catches. And if he falls to you, then fine. But the value, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's just really going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think they're going to give him a shot to be the workhorse. I really do. I think you might see Breida give him a spell or two. I don't think Breida has a ton of fantasy value, like at all. But
yeah, he wasn't really relevant. He was relevant for a few games last year, Breida, but why I say it was interesting about Barkley is the fact that there's a new offense, and we saw what that offense kind of ran last year under Dable for the Bills in regards to not really having a run game for the first half or 3/4 of the season. So I know it's different quarterback. He's going to probably give the reins over to his OC to call the plays. But, I saw that also in Kansas City too as well, where they didn't run the ball as much as they should sometimes too. So we'll see. The running backs, they are what they are. I'm not sniffing Breida. He's ranked 85th overall. He's going to be one of those guys that, if he gets a chance, is going to be a waiver wire pickup. But other than that, nothing there. I think the more interesting part is, and I'll call it a crapshoot because I don't know which one's going to actually be the wide receiver one after looking into it, is you got Kenny Golladay, you got Sterling Shepard, and you have Kadarius Toney. And if you look at the rankings, okay, Golladay is ranked wide receiver 56, Sterling Shepard's wide receiver 61, and Kadarius Toney is wide receiver 45. So right now they have Kadarius Toney as the wide receiver one for the Giants in a fantasy perspective.
Okay, I'm going to break this down to you because I feel like I have the grip on the wide receiver situation in Giant land. I think Kadarius Toney is going to have a solid year, wide receiver 45. I don't think so. I think he finishes lower than that, but I do think he's going to be a nice target. You're going to see him fill almost like a Cole Beasley type in the offense. Sterling Shepard, I wouldn't touch him with a 15-foot pole. That guy can't stay on the field.
He's always hurt.
He's a PPR machine. When he's on the field, I can't trust the consistency. Maybe a good bye week filler, things like that. And here comes this guy. And they paid a lot of money for him. And in a high-flying, down-the-field long ball offense, Kenny Golladay is going to have a year. I have him over 1,000 yards and a bunch of touchdowns.
So they're not far off from each other. So you're saying you go Kenny Golladay over Kadarius Toney?
I think Tony's going to rack up some PPR points, but I think Kenny Golladay is the number one receiver on that team for sure.
So it sucks, dude. You hear all this stuff, and we look at the internet, we read these articles, but they're trying to say like he's going to fit the Tyreek Hill role, meaning Tony. And I think that's why he's ranked at where he's at. I'm not gonna lie. He is somebody that's interesting for me. Wide receiver 45. The Giants wide receivers are not getting drafted in some leagues. That's nuts. One of these guys,
player,
and I don't
right?
think it's Sterling Shepard either. Yeah, one of these guys from the Giants, I don't think it's Sterling Shepard, and is going to be a value pick. You just have to literally throw a dart at one of their names and pick a guy and see if you're right.
I don't think you sleep on Golladay here. I really don't.
I tend to agree with you. I do. Again, like
another injury guy though.
Another
injury guy.
Yeah, and so is Tony. Yeah. So is Shepard. Which for
Giants
me,
receiving core is made of glass.
There's one other name that has, when you look into the Giants world and see what OTAs is like, it's Wendell Robinson that's getting a little hype. He's got a connection. He's a rookie. I would just monitor that because this is a new regime. Yeah. They're not tied into these guys. Eventually, they're all going to be off. And the people that they drafted this year are going to be the guys that stay.
Yeah, years ago, gadget players were kind of like one tricks, right? And then all of a sudden, they started emerging as not one tricks, like Darren Sproles, think guys of that nature. I could see Wendell Robinson all over that field. I could see him in the backfield. I could see him at on the ends. I could see him in the slot. I think Wendell Robinson, like you said, pay attention in training camp because if he's making headlines, you might want to take a late rounder on him.
Yeah, I mean, he probably won't get drafted in most leagues because unless something happens. But he's a running back that was transitioned to a wide receiver. He can run the ball. He can catch the ball. When I compare players to like a Debo in the sense of how they use them. Listen, you're not going to get the production as a rookie. I understand that, but it's just interesting. And those are the guys that you want to try to snag, right? The year that you figured out the Kareem Hunt or the Alvin Kamara year,
Odell,
you look like a damn genius. The Odell year, I can't believe it. You never accepted that trade. I cannot.
I honestly don't even remember who I was giving you.
I think me and Greg were at a Giants game together, and I was, oh man, it was some really
the
bad
Cleveland Brown running
back,
back, and I can't remember his name.
Oh man, was it Tate?
No.
Okay, but I offered him. We were at a Giants game, and I offered him a scrub running back he had the running back for Odell Beckham before he blew up his rookie year. I think that's the year I actually beat you in the championship too at Odell, but we won't.
Yeah, we won't. We won't talk about that.
So, last thing, it's not really much to mention for the Giants. The tight end situations. Well, I don't know.
No.
You have Ricky Seals-Jones coming from Washington. Jordan Akins coming over too as well. They drafted a rookie. Again, I think it's one of those things that it's just a wait and see approach and see if a guy is productive. Evan Ingram did leave the team in targets last year, which was like, I think he was the one that had 73 targets. So there are targets to be had. But then again, nobody could stay healthy last year, so it was spread. I mean, you had Dante Pettis, you had second and third tight ends in the game. It was a little nuts. So that kind of wraps it up for the Giants. Next team is the Philadelphia Eagles. They finished 9-8, and they're led by their QB, Jalen Hurts. Hurts finished last year as the QB 9, ranked this year as the QB 7. Was really hot for a while last year. Can he take a step up? That's the question.
All right. So here's where I have trouble because I'm a Giants fan. And a lot of times when I draft these players, I don't think of them as fantasy players. I think of them as football players. As a Philadelphia Eagle, I think Jalen Hurts sucks. As a fantasy quarterback, numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I'm not a buy. I'm not a sell. I think he's going to finish right around where you think he's going to finish. I think Eagles fans are going to hate him. I think he's not going to win a lot of games. But I think he can win you some fantasy games.
Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting because there is the name that they added. It's A.J. Brown, right? We said it earlier. We're going to touch on the Eagles and situation. You know, Smith last year coming as a rookie for him was a great opportunity and target. Now he technically has a true number one, but maybe he has two true number ones in a 1A and 1B situation. I mean, Smith last year had 104 targets. I don't know why 104 is the thing, but it seems like the NFC East is full of 104. So had a decent, solid rookie year. So it's going to be interesting to see if Jalen Hurts can put it together. But again, you're absolutely right. I don't think he's a good football player to win you a championship, but sometimes you don't need that in fantasy. Garbage time touchdowns count just as much as first quarter touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really what you saw. I think he disappeared for the first half every game, and then all of a sudden would just come out and have he would have 30 points total, and 28 of the 30 would be in the last two quarters.
Yeah,
so,
we call that
he's going to finish right around there, I think.
Yeah, we call that the Blake Bortles conundrum. Remember that, dude? He was dropping
ripping cigs, doing construction.
He was dropping 40 bombs in fantasy, and their team was losing by 30.
Yeah. Sometimes that's what you need. You need a team that has a bad defense for their QB to be out on that field a lot, but not too bad of a defense where they're pulling them, you know? Yeah. Somebody, when you're down by 10, 14 points every game, that's that garbage time touchdown. It feels nice, too, especially if it's a 1 o'clock game and you're getting nervous. But their running back situation, little interesting. Of a situation. Miles Sanders seems to always have all the talent in the world and gets drafted high every year. He finished last year as RB43. He's ranked as RB26 this year. He's a sneaky name to look at RB26.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles' backfield is like cut onions to me, man. They're going to make you cry. Jalen Hurts runs the ball. Miles Sanders runs the ball. They're a three-headed monster in Philly. They just give everybody the ball in that backfield. You're not going to get any sort of consistent value out of any running back in Philadelphia unless they truly name a starter and they truly start giving one guy the rock and make him the bell cow. I stay away from these, man. I'm a sell on the running backs in Philly.
Yeah, I agree. He's an interesting name just because of where he's going. If he has the opportunity to be a starter, he's got talent, but you also have, I think, second-year player Kenneth Gainwell, which everybody hyped up last year, but really couldn't do much. He did wind up finishing RB45 though last year, ranked RB47. We're low on that. I mean, those are players that probably are not getting drafted.
Yeah.
Then when we get into the wide receivers, I think that's the most interesting thing. Both wide receivers, A.J. Brown and Smith, last year finished around the 30 to 32 mark, right? This year, A.J. Brown is ranked wide receiver 11. Smith is ranked wide receiver 36.
I think they got Smith right in. I think they're both 30s, man. I think they're on your starting roster, and you're not going to be thrilled about it. But they're going to have good games. They're going to have bad games. I just see
yeah, but think about the draft capital. A.J. Brown at wide receiver 11.
I think that's way too high.
I think it's way too high.
That's
100%.
a second round pick.
Yeah, I think it's.
I just don't trust Jalen Hurts as an NFL player to get him. Jalen Hurts got most of his points on the ground.
I think why I think it's way too high is I'm not sold that he's going to be the number one. He's coming into a new offense, and Smith has another year to prove himself. I would take a flyer. 100% would take a flyer at Devontae Smith at wide receiver 30.
Yes. Oh yeah.
100%, because that's the upside that he has the potential of being, if anything, or I'm sorry, he's ranked 36th, wide receiver 36. He finished 30 last year. I'm all
over Devontae Smith this year.
I'll give you a couple names that go in that area: Tyler Lockett, Hunter Renfrow, Devontae Smith, and Adam Thielen. Again, Hunter Renfrow. Why are people sleeping on Hunter Renfrow?
Everybody sleeps on Hunter Renfrow.
So that's who you're choosing.
Yeah, out of those
area.
four, I'm taking Devontae Smith. He has the most upside.
He has the most upside. And we don't really touch about strength of schedule, but the NFC East has a very easier schedule than most. So I would take it. A wide receiver 3 on that team, who knows? There's nothing to highlight there. But the only other option there, and I think it's almost like the Dalton Schultz thing. He's getting drafted at a good spot, maybe a little bit higher than I thought. But Dallas Goedert, he finished tight end 8 last year. He's ranked 7th this year.
I think he's the second most fantasy relevant player on that team. I think Goddard he's a red zone target. He's, like you said, he's a lot like Schultz. There's not much to say about him. He's not flashy. He doesn't stand out, but he's going to be there. His targets are there. His production's there, and his red zone targets are there. I think Goddard's a fine tight end pick, and you're going to get him late.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much. What he had 76 targets last year. I happen to have this stuff
not
up,
bad.
but Zach Ertz was still on the team, and Zach Ertz was on the team earlier in this season too, as well. Which was 31 targets. So if you combined it for the tight end spot, again. That's over 100
No
targets.
way that equaled 104, does it?
No, it's more than 104.
31 and
it's 107.
Oh, okay. It's like no way.
76 and 31. Yeah, if that was, we need to go play. What's the pick?
I'm playing 104 for the next 3 weeks.
Straight and boxed.
Yeah.
But that's the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, that's a little bit of preview of what they got, where they're ranked, where they finished last year. And the last team that we got is the Washington Commanders. All right, the Washington Commanders. Well, actually, the Washington football team last year finished 7-10, now known as the Washington Commanders. They go ahead and trade for the Carson Wentz. Wentz finished last year as a QB 14. Remember, he was hot in the beginning of the year. And he's ranked QB 26 going into the season.
I think Carson Wentz is right around where he's going to be, right around Danny Jonesville.
The Danny Jones. 100%.
Yeah, I don't think I don't know. Will you wear the suit he wore?
No, I didn't see
Okay.
it. Was it that bad?
It's awful. I think it was like some weird, like...
What, at his press conference?
Yeah, he looked like a hot dog.
All right, let's see live reaction to me pulling this up while we talk. Take a look here. Oh, my God.
Know. Yeah,
but why?
He's a commander now.
It's mustard yellow. Oh, look at, and he has like mustard yellow shoes on too. All right, man, good luck. That's something I would never wear. But yeah, I think like you were saying, he's in that Danny Jones fit, right? Could have upside. He showed it last year. It's a different team, different offense. I think the next section with the running backs, though, with Antonio Gibson, is the interesting part for me. He's ranked RB 18 this year, finished as RB 10, so he was a top 10 guy last year. And we've seen him be able to do a lot on the field, but they don't use him as a catching running back, which bothers me. I like Antonio Gibson. I've been on the Antonio Gibson bandwagon since the beginning. RB 18.
Yeah, you've been an Antonio Gibson fan for a long time. You were
Absolute
a big fan
value.
of him last year. I talked you out of drafting him, and it was a terrible mistake that I made, as we went back-to-back wide receivers for like the second year in a row and made terrible mistakes. I think Antonio Gibson's right around there. I think he's around a top 15 running back. even without the PPR value as a pass catcher out of the backfield, I think they feed him the rock. He's a workhorse, and he's as long like you said. I think he got a little banged up by the end of the season, a few points, but didn't miss significant time. And if he's that type of player, then yeah, he's going to perform.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'll shoot you some right here, but Cam Akers, Zeke Elliott, which we talked about, Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, James Connors. He's right smack in the middle of those names.
Those are big names.
So,
yeah.
and Saquon at 14, which we talked about. Yeah. But Gibson proved last year he could be a top 10. And then now he's ranked at 18 this year. And there's other names that are below him. Bryce Hall, rookie. J.K. Dobbins, off an injury year. Travis Etienne, off an injury year. And A.J. Dillon, which is a running back 2. So when you're getting into that territory, yeah, Gibson, I think, has value. Depends on where he kind of lands in what round. Yeah, I mean, the other running back there, which 2 years ago I think he led the league for catches for running backs, was J.D. McKissick. It's funny with him. I don't know if you saw. He actually agreed to terms with, I think, the Bills, and then decided to be like, no, I'm going to stay a Commander. I don't know what would change your mind there. Last year, he was drafted as one of those PPR running backs that not really necessarily a handcuff. He finished last year RB49. Ranked this year going into PPR formats as RB42.
On J.D. McKissick, I called him Mr. Roulette because I had him on my team. Yeah. And 1 week, he would do okay, and the next week, he'd give you a goose egg. So you're playing black or red if you're playing J.D. McKissick. And if Antonio Gibson's healthy, and now that they have a decent quarterback that can actually throw the ball, I'm staying away from McKissick big time.
Yeah, I would love to see Antonio Gibson be able to be a 3 down back. I think he can handle it. He would have ton of upside and fantasy for it. Got to see what happens in camp and see what the trend is. But I think teams that get too creative with 50-50 splits, a PPR running back or not, when you have one that does everything, just do it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, he's low. He's going to be a waiver wire ad eventually, maybe, a stash in really, really deep leagues with big benches. Me and Greg have a league together that pretty much every running back and wide receiver that sees a field gets drafted.
No.
So, other than that, he's not on anybody's radar. The big player to be on the radar, and I'm super high on him. I don't know why I'm high on the Commanders.
Scary Terry.
Terry
McLaurin. You talked me into him last year.
Yeah, man.
He came out hotter than a pistol.
I love
Fitzpatrick was supposed to be the man, dude. And then we got Taylor Heineke. And
yeah,
Terry
McLaurin just Taylor Heineke screwed that whole thing up for him.
Jump every week, and then he's back, and then jump and back down again. I'm not touching him. I don't touch him. I don't touch Terry McLaurin. This is another wait and see situation with the quarterback. And it's at
wide receiver 20.
No,
you're not touching him
as my wide receiver 2. No, I'm not. Maybe if I can get him as a wide receiver 3, I'd pick him up.
Yeah, that might be the case. We don't have ADPs up, which would help, but he's so talented, man. He really is, and the QB play has been so bad. I don't know if I'm going to draft him this year. I mean, I have 7 leagues. Eventually, probably will draft him at least one. I don't think I want to get burned by him because I get on these hype bandwagons for players, and I have such a love for them, and it's just like it's heartbreaking. I think this year, in just a little draft strategy, I think consistency. I think we have to highlight stuff on consistency and what that means later. Before people
I think he's a boomer bust guy.
He wasn't last year, and that is the scary part. I mean, but is he a better? So last year, Wentz was on the Colts, Michael Pittman Jr. was his wide receiver 1. Michael Pittman Jr. was a starting wide receiver last year. Okay? I think Terry McLaurin is a better player than Michael Pittman. So can he finish in the top 16? He can, but
yeah,
again,
dude, has Carson Wentz ever had like a
QB
really good wide
scares
receiver?
me a little bit.
No one ever. The Eagles haven't had a good wide receiver in a decade. Deshaun Watson. Oh, Deshaun Jackson, sorry.
No, so this is probably the best wide receiver he's had. Yeah. Deshaun Jackson, I don't even know if it was on.
I'm saying that's the last time I remember an Eagles receiver being any good.
But he's been all over the place. But this might be the best wide receiver.
This is a wait and see.
This is a wait and see. Carson Wentz played with Jonathan Taylor last year. It's not the best offensive player. Yeah. And so is the wide receiver 2 and 3 on the team.
I agree.
Curtis Samuel may have some value. He's not getting drafted there. Ranked 75th. Yep. He might be a nice sleeper down the line or a deep stash. He was injured all last year with an oblique injury. So he's one of those wait and see what his health is like later down the line. But there is a rookie again that's getting some hype that I think has the potential to jump him on the charts.
Dotson. We got Dotson here.
Dotson. So he's another one to look out for.
I think Curtis Samuel, like you said, is going to have some value. Well. Maybe as a bye week filler or picking up on the waiver wire once you see that can stay healthy. And if they're giving him red zone carries and they're using him as the gadget player that he was being used as in Carolina, he could have some legitimate value. Dotson, The last thing I want is a rookie wide receiver with Carson Wentz as my quarterback. I'll see you next year.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting hype. I keep saying that word, but it is.
Poggers.
He's ranked 69th right now. If we go back to what the Giants were ranked, I think it was 45 to 60 something. So he's right in that range of what the Giants are going at. So he's going to get hype. He's going to get drafted. You want to be on the right side of those wide receiver rookies that do kind of blow up because you get so much value out of wide receiver rookies and second-year players before they get their true value in the draft. It's just proven. I'm a big fan of wide receiver in year 2 drafting because that's the last year you'll probably get before they go up. Last pass-catching option there, which is an interesting name because he has flashed tight end 1 numbers when he stays healthy. Logan Thomas, the converted QB to tight end. He's getting ranked right now around the 18 mark as tight end 18.
Yeah, I mean, apart from the Giants, the NFC East
has
a bunch of really talented tight ends that could put up decent numbers, and one of them is Logan Thomas. But you could tape some crutches to this guy's arm, man. He just cannot stay on the field. And it was the same with Vernon Davis as well. It's for some reason tight ends in Washington just get their ass beat.
Oh, man, why am I forgetting? Who was the guy before after Vernon Davis? He was hurt every single year, and he looked like a beast. Why am I drawing a name?
Yeah, I know.
A blank on him. It will come to me after we're done with this podcast. I guarantee it. But yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. To me, I like the stash of tight end 2. Sometimes that has super high upside. I think he's a little underrated with the other names that are out there because he is a tight end 1. He's not he's a pass catching tight end. So I think he's an interesting name to watch and see what his health looks like. So that wraps up the NFC East preview for you guys, but I'm going to do a little rapid fire round for Greg based on some of the players that we just talked about. I want you to pick a name and the guy.
Are you talking about Jordan Reed?
Gibson or Barkley?
Okay, Gibson or Barkley?
Jordan Reed.
I'm a sell on Barkley. Give me Gibson all day. Absolutely, Give me Gibson all day. He has the potential to finish in the top 10 again.
All right, I agree with you. Give me Gibson. Jalen Hurts or Dak?
I think 2 of Jalen Hurts could make up for Dak. But the numbers for Hurts are there. Dak doesn't run as much anymore. The loss of Amari Cooper. I'm still going Dak.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too as well. Wentz or Jones as a flyer late round?
Carson Wentz.
I get
Carson
it.
Wentz.
I understand it.
He's proven he can play in the league.
Wentz or Jones? Carson Wentz. Okay, I'll go Jones.
Okay.
Just because why not? Let's not have the same opinion here.
Gallup can gallop his ass out of my
Gallup
fantasy
or
team.
Tony?
Give me to get out his Tony.
It's based on. Yeah, I'm with you on that. So a little fire around there. So
Who wins this? Dallas.
Who wins the division?
Yeah.
Dallas.
I think Dallas wins this at 10. 10 wins. Gets it done.
Yeah.
10-7. This
10
division's
wins?
still bad, man.
I think this is going to be yeah, it is. I think it's going to be a little closer than that, and I don't see Dallas pulling out 12 wins. I don't know. Give me the Eagles. Why not? It's different. All right. So this segment, real quick, we did the NFC East. I want you to give me, okay, your most underrated player, your most overrated player, and your sleeper for the NFC East.
Like I said before, most underrated player, I'm going with Galladay. Kenny Galladay, I think, is going to have a phenomenal, not a phenomenal, but he's in your lineup putting up numbers. Yeah, I think he's going to
out-project.
Almost double what they're probably projecting him. Overrated? I'm going to have to go with Terry McLaurin. Sorry. He's just he's a T.Y. Hilton type of receiver. He's a boomer bust guy. Not my thing. And my sleeper, Devontae Smith.
All right, give me your sleeper. All right.
No, we're good. That's good. No.
Want to hear mine? All right, see you guys. Have a good night. All right, so underrated for me is Logan Thomas. I just see tight end one potential. I'm a guy that likes to draft the second tight end. I know you're not a fan of that. I like to stash it. It's always a good option on that. Overrated, A.J. Brown.
It's A.J. Brown.
Just A.J. Brown. Nah. New offense. I think Smith might have more value. He definitely will. Wide receiver, he's in the 30s. And my sleeper is Kadarius Toney.
All right.
100%. Kadarius Toney.
Your Giants blew.
If he stays healthy, I think he's a top 24.
A
little bit.
It's
I
all
took
good.
the flag down at least this week. Come on, man. So, but that's it for us, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the NFC East preview. A little fire round, little divisional winner. We'll write this stuff down too, divisional winners and stuff, and see if we're right by the end of the year. We're going to take this podcast from now until your championship week. Some socials again for you if you made it this far and listened to us, which we definitely appreciate. Facebook at What the Fantasy Football. Okay, we got our Twitter now is at WTFF_podcast. We do have a Gmail, but I don't think you want to email us. You can DM us on any of the Twitter or Facebook. And then my Twitter, as always.
Yeah, and if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to
FF.
like, comment, subscribe. It helps the video grow. It helps the channel grow. And puts it on the front page for viewers to look
100%.
at if they're into fantasy football. But that's going to do it for us, Albie. Nice job. All right, the next time we see you, we'll be talking about the NFC North.
Appreciate it.
How Aaron Rodgers is going to fare without the best receiver.
NFC North. Have a good night, guys. Morning, whatever you're watching.
Adios.
We'll see you for episode 3 in 2 weeks.